Just a quick update today. I am basically waiting for parts. I'm waiting for bike parts and car parts. So the bike, I'm waiting for some parts. Somebody suggested on one of the films about a particular sort of wire brush I could use to clean up the engine. Here's the engine here. They're sort of nylon, but impregnated with grit, I guess. And that may work really well on the aluminium on the engine. So I'm not going to put that back in the frame until those brushes have arrived and I've given it a good cleaning. And I'm also waiting for Riley parts, door hinges, locks, bits and pieces like that, which I paid extra for DHL shipping so they'd get here quickly. It took 7 days to get from the UK to New Zealand, and now they've been sitting up in Auckland, I guess at customs, for more than 7 days. So the shipping to New Zealand was great and quick, but the getting them actually here from Auckland down to where I am seems to be taking a bit longer. The wire brushes I'm also going to try on the rims here. So I've basically been spraying these with evaporust. Every day I come out and spray it a little bit, and it's slowly taking the rust off. The interesting thing is that the evaporust must be in solution with water, because as the water evaporates you get left with a sticky coating, which seems to be stopping it rusting any further. But that's all going to have to be cleaned off and everything painted up nicely. Oh, I think that's thunder in the background. So I better be quick on the next bit, and you'll see why in a minute. The bike frame slowly going back together. It's been baking in the back of the Land Rover for a couple of weeks now. I've seen the temperature in there get up to over 60 degrees. I've got a little temperature probe in there with an LCD screen, and it gets so hot the screen stops working. They recover when the temperature drops, and once it drops down to about 60, it starts working again. So I know the temperature's over 60 in there, which makes it a good place for baking paint on, and that's come up really well. The rear swing arm is back on, and I'm just slowly cleaning up parts to put back on it. I did get new brake shoes from China, but they seem fine. The quality's actually pretty good, and they were cheap off AliExpress. So brake drums and things, it's just a matter of cleaning everything up and getting it ready to put it back on the car. Some things are going to be a bit tricky. So this is the rubber seal that goes around the speedometer drive, sort of a rubber grommet, and you can see that's all ripped up. So I don't know what I'm going to replace that with, for example. You know, things like that get a little bit tricky. So anyway, the important thing is the Riley, which I have sitting outside. I covered it in paper. So this is just brown wrapping paper. And the idea of doing this is just to get an idea of the shape. So obviously the paper's not going to sit exactly correct because the paper is flat and you can't shrink or stretch it, which is what's going to happen with the aluminium. So you can see sort of the corners of the tail there. It's all pressed in. The same on the top of the scuttle here. It's flat, and on the actual car it's going to have curve. But what this does is it lets me see the shape of the car, so I can check how it looks, and I can walk around it and I can get an idea of what the actual shape of this body is going to be. I've only put one door, paper door obviously, on there. I didn't do the other side. But also adding the paper there gives me a good idea for when I'm actually making the panels where the stretching needs to be to get them to sit right. I mean, across a place like this is obvious. It's kind of obvious if you've got curves all around and you try to put a flat thing across it, it's going to be low in the middle. So there'll be shape in the middle there. And the interesting thing when you do this is with paper you can gather it, which is the same as shrinking. And there's a few places where I had to do that, but most of it's going to need to be stretched. So it gives you an idea of the shape, sort of filling in the the shapes. The tail looks bad because it is very pinched in at the tops, because of course there'll be more curve in there. But that gives an idea of the shape of the body. I did look at it in my CAD software, because the original Dord Brooklands, or some of the original bodies, they all seem to vary. I ended up getting as many side-on pictures as I could and overlaying them effectively in my CAD software. You can import them as a canvas and then put them on top of your design, or put your design on top of them, I guess is a better way of putting it. And that shows me the shape. So the shape I've got is more like the longer racing bodies without the doors, but with doors. It's effectively how it's come out. The Dord Brooklands are flatter in the top here. They don't have as much curve over here, but that just kind of looks funny to me. It looks like a squashed beetle. So I just went with what I thought looked nice and what I like, because it's my car. So that's kind of what we've ended up with. The tail is quite long, but as I say, that's the same length as the racing tails. There are cars with shorter tails, come up to about here, which could be something I could have done as well, but then they end up looking very short and squat at the back. So, you know, I wanted something that looks like a race car, I guess. So I went for the longer, sleeker tail. Plus it gives you a little bit of usable space in the boot. So that gives an idea. I had to move the MG, of course, to get the car out here, but that's good because it gives me a chance to compare the lengths. I don't have them lined up exactly. Maybe if I roll them both to this line, I can get an accurate measure. But the Riley is a little bit longer because I've got the long pointy tail. So not sure how much longer. I'll have to actually measure things, but like I say, it gives you an idea. It's not exact. I'm not using the paper to make patterns. You don't need to do that. You make the pattern to fit the frame. But this is just to give me some idea that the frame is correct and the lines are more or less correct and the heights of everything are correct, and you know that the lines along here are right and the line across there. Obviously you can obviously see where it's dented in here and here because it's flat pieces of paper. So if you imagine those with some curve to them, some crown and shape, it should look pretty good, I think. So, but I've had to wait all week. When I first put the paper on, it sat a lot better, but because it's been raining all week, I haven't been able to get it outside to actually look at it. And as I say, it's been raining all week, and today the sun has come out a bit, although it is quite thundery. I can hear rumbling. It's very, very humid, so now all the paper is sagging. So it looks a lot worse than it did when I first actually did it. But I mean, that gives you an idea of the barrel shape of the thing. There's no bonnet, obviously, but the lines of the bonnet, you can pretty easily see where those go, how the exhaust will stick out of there. Yeah, I think that's going to look pretty good.